Hello, everybody. Uh, I want to welcome you to yet another ZentraCast. So, I'm Marco Howen and your host on this journey for the next 60 minutes of engaging dialogue and insight. Each month we sit together with this entrepreneurial mindset and hold space for Europe's most consequential experiences to be shared through original conversation. We examine the area between who people truly are, the conditioning they're struggling to break free from, and the utter joy that comes from inspiring others through their own personal transformation. Today, it is my immense pleasure to have an original conversation with Stéphane Compain, co-founder of LuxRelo. Hello, Stéphane.
Hi, Marco. Real pleasure to be on a discussion with you.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let me kick it off. And as we said, this is a conversation, so we'll see where it goes. But let me kick it off with a question right to the heart of what I believe will be the core of our conversation. And during the ramp up to our today's conversation, we talked a lot about fulfillment. So my question to you would be, what does personal fulfillment really mean to you?
Well, to me, I think there is one main pillar, which is my family. That's my main fulfillment. And now for the past 5 years, I have another, maybe my second leg to stand on. It's my job as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And I think that you cannot have a proper fulfillment without only the family. You need also your personal fulfillment, whether it's, I don't know, can be sport, it can be art, it can be your work, but you need to have a balance with between your family life and your personal life.
Yeah, so what I hear from you is that there are three aspects. So there's the your professional startup entrepreneur, well, startup or not anymore, but
Not
entrepreneurial,
anymore, yeah.
not anymore, entrepreneurial, then the family and personal. How and that's very interesting because I really love to talk about what people do for themselves to be a better leader for themselves and for others. So, what would that be for you? What would add to your fulfillment on the personal level for you?
um,
What is?
I need to learn to take more time for myself, which I'm starting to do. In the past, I used to be, focused on my work mainly, my family, and then I tended maybe to forget about myself. Take time to go on a trip with friends, do some sports, do personal things, and I was more focused on others than on myself. And I've read a few books and discussed with people, and I think it's not possible to be a good leader or even a good father or husband in my case if you don't think about yourself as well, because if you are not fulfilling yourself as well, how can you share other things with your family, colleagues, partners?
Yeah, I totally concur. I think it's there is this saying, it's quite old, but hey, let me just take it out again. It's like in the airplane when they always say before you put the mask on somebody else, you have to put it on your nose first because otherwise you cannot help anybody else.
Exactly.
It's a simplistic way of seeing it, but it is actually, I think, how it is. So maybe some passions you want to share. You talked about sports. I push you somewhere maybe.
Well, I'm passionate for a number of years about kite surfing.
Yeah.
Why? Because a lot of freedom, excitement, adrenaline, and you can go in places that are just so beautiful. I'm lucky enough to be able to kite on a regular basis, And it's for me, when I'm on the water, I'm just forgetting anything, I'm just enjoying myself and freeing my mind. And even if my body is tired when I go back on shore, I'm, so relaxed afterwards.
Beautiful to hear you talk about it. But and you talk about freedom. What other emotion or value, when I talk about values, is you are catering to with kite surfing?
It's a sport where you need to be humble because you are on the water. You have the wind. It can be very dangerous if you are not, listening to the weather forecast. If you're not asking the locals if you're going on a new spot, how it is, and you need the help. Of course, you can, go on the water and come back yourself in some cases, but most of the time it's much easier and safer to ask somebody else to help you to launch a kite. And I think it's kind of family. I'm part of a club in on the Madine Lake, which is between Metz and Nancy in France. And we are sharing friendship, and there's nothing about who is an entrepreneur, who is somebody working in I don't know, a restaurant, whatever. We are just enjoying the same sport and sharing the same values.
Yeah.
And when I'm on the water, I'm pretty sure that as soon as I can go on the water when it gets warmer, the first time it's just so much excitement. Sometimes I just yell on the water to get maybe all the stress out of me. And I was listening on the radio today. There has been they were talking about a group of women in the US who gathered during the COVID just to be in a park and just yell, just
I
yell.
read that too,
Young
yeah.
mothers, yes. So maybe it's the same thing with me.
Yelling. And actually, yeah, so it's very important to get things out, and you better get it out on the middle of a lake by holding a kite rather than than in front of your coworkers.
Oh yeah, but maybe they should do it as well. So maybe I should set the example.
Yeah, but it's really fascinating. So I heard three main values now. It's maybe a little bit um, presumptuous to say that these are your values, but these are values of you. So it's the humbleness, the freedom, or the need for freedom, and the need for connection. I think, how does that sound for you when you hear that?
Yeah, it's for me it's important. I don't to be humble. I try to be. Sometimes, I'm pretty sure that like everybody else, at some points in your life, in your career, if you look back, you say, maybe I was a bit too obnoxious and not humble enough in what I was doing or what I was telling people. But if you are able to, acknowledge that and try, to improve yourself for the next time, then, well, that's fine. Everybody can make mistakes.
Yeah, because what has to be add to that always is self-compassion, huh? Because we are not always humble. We are not always doing the things we really think we should, and so having this
And you
self-compassion.
have a lot of things that can affect who you are on a day, on a day-to-day basis. You can have a bad night,
Yeah,
have stress because of your business or family issues, and the way you will react towards a questions, a remark, might be different today and tomorrow.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, talking about humbleness, how do you think that your value or your strive for being humble um, was showing up in your life on different occasions?
Um, well, for myself, I always wanted to prove that, I could achieve things. So I've been pushing myself very hard on various occasions, mainly to prove to others, which I think was the wrong path. Now that I think about it, and I've acknowledged that, I was trying to prove things to people where there was no need. Why should I prove anything to anyone except myself? If I want to climb a mountain, go to the Himalaya and climb Himalaya, it should be for myself, not to prove anything to anybody. So I think that, when you try to prove something to somebody else, in a way, you're not so humble, because it's you're trying to show an image of yourself which is not the right one.
Or which is the one somebody wants to see of you. That's what we very often do, I think. Like what society pushes us to do. Society.
You want to have a reaction from people in front of you, so you think that, will I have, compassion? Will people feel proud of me?
Yeah,
Will people admire me?
absolutely.
And well, it's the aim of a lot of people to be appreciated, to be liked, to be admired. Um, but you also need to know that you cannot be liked by everybody.
Yeah,
The things you are doing might not be liked by everybody, but as long as you are, that's your new uh, enterprise is, be aligned with yourself. And I think that's, when I heard this phrase, be aligned with yourself, it resonated to me, because it's not been so long that I've been aligned with who I am. And COVID uh, has been tough and had a lot of bad effects for a lot of people. But for me, it had also I had also good things that I took out of it, allowing to reflect a bit more on myself and what I wanted to achieve as an entrepreneur, and as a father and husband and personal person.
I yeah. There's a reason why we talk. So because when we met the first time, we really talked about a lot about this alignment, and I find that actually back in a lot of statements and a lot of things you're doing. But what does that mean for you, being aligned with myself? Because it's a nice thing to say, but what does it mean for you?
I think it's to be aligned with yourself is to know and understand the things you are doing and that they have a purpose, but also not to try to find something that doesn't exist. Be liked by everybody. Be liked by every customer. Be liked by every person you meet. That's not possible. It's like, and sometimes you try to push yourself in your business and pretend to be someone that you are not, because your father told you something when you were young and you want to prove him that he's wrong, or your boss said you are crap, and you won't be able to do this task, or you are in the military service, and the guy is going to say, no, you cannot do the exercise because you are not fit enough. And so you want to prove something to someone else, but it's like a guinea pig in a wheel, just turning around, and but where is the aim? Just to prove something to somebody else, but not to yourself.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about climbing a mountain, or performing this task, when you don't like it because your boss told you to do it, and at some point you need to reflect on that. Is your personal values, is your company values are aligned, and it's not easy, because again, what is true today might not be true tomorrow. If you grow your company, you try and, I have heard so many stories about companies trying to, that had values, and when they grow, when new people get in, the values are on a wall, it's written, and the reality is that it's not transmitted to the employees, or not shared with the employees.
Absolutely, and very often it's a marketing gig, so it's created by marketing and not by I saw and worked on that, and it's beautiful when you can go into a company and you really work these values out. That's really something very beautiful, because you get this combined wisdom of all your employees. So many times maybe it is the management who takes it all, but maybe it's just a good sounding phrases which are decided.
You cannot just blame the management. Of course, they as leaders, they should lead the way and show implement things, but then everybody in the company should put his little stones, so that the reality of the company values really exist. It's every department in the company that has to get involved, and it can be the trainee, the newcomer, the HR, and so on. The management give the way, the owners give the path where they want to go, maybe fix some boundaries, but it's everybody's role to make sure that the company's culture will work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not something on the wall, because I've seen you write 5 pages, and it's part of your company DNA. You have a nice sign at the entry in the hallway, but then if the employees don't believe in it, that it's just a marketing sign on the wall, is it worth it to do that?
It's what comes up for me when you say that is I remember a passage of the book of Ray Dalio. Maybe you know who Ray Dalio is. He was the creator and CEO of the largest hedge fund company in the world. Yeah. And his idea was really to create although he created a company, and it's one of these companies which work like that, a company which is totally open, absolute transparency to everybody. It's just amazing what he did, because he proved to himself, or after he had his first bankruptcy, where he was sure he was right, he come up with I was not right. So looks like me thinking I'm right is the biggest problem I have in my company. So I rather go for something else. And so he went for 30 years creating the open company, which is quite amazing. But what I wanted to say is there was this one time. So one of his logics is to say, well, you can do mistakes in this company. It's not a problem. You have to learn out of your mistakes, but you can do mistakes. And one time, one of his top sales guys made a mistake, and the mistake cost more than $20 million, because he just didn't pass on an order from a customer or whatever, or it was even more money, whatever, for his top 100 richest man in the world. So other logics than we have in our mind normally. And then he was sitting there, and he really said, I wanted to fire him because I was really angry. I said, what example will I set to my company and to my people when I tell them that they can do mistakes? And now I fire the guy. How aligned am I with what I am talking? How authentic am I when I say the next time, hey guys, you can do mistakes? And more importantly, will anyone ever again trust and believe me? So he took the decision not to fire the guy, and actually created with him procedures which allowed them to not do that mistake again. But it's there where we become authentic. When we walk.
I think, and of course, it's easy to say because we are a small company, but we try every time that we arrive in a dead end or that we face a problem, to learn from it and to revise our processes. Again, you have a lot of companies where a process has been established 10 years ago, and of course society, business has evolved, and they keep using the same process. What we try is to adapt or to be agile and adapt our process to the reality of the market, and if it's if a problem arise, we have to learn from it and try to avoid it next time, or to make a process much clearer. I'm going to give you an example, which is not from in the business, but from university and school. So my daughter is studying vet school in Portugal, and so she passed exams every week, and everything's going fine for most of the students, and then they have this exam where is a total failure for everybody. And next class, the teacher is asking what went wrong, what's the problem? And most of the students that are used, teachers are the people to listen to, and they are, you cannot go against what they are saying. They were a bit afraid of, saying, well, we didn't understand anything of what you explained to us in when we had the course. And so suddenly somebody said, okay, we had this problem, and then it opened the discussion. And the teacher, next course, had changed all the slides, had changed all the presentation, had revamped the whole course, and was humble, and coming back to humble, was humble enough to admit that the way he was teaching this course was completely wrong, and that the students couldn't understand it, and they relearned it another way, and then it went well. So I think it's important as well, to I'm fond of customer service, and for us it's very important because we are in a service business. But if you don't listen to your customers, if you don't listen to your clients, you won't be able to improve and to evolve. You will stay still. If we were, if during the pandemic we would have said we cannot do home search because we only do home search, with clients when they are here in Luxembourg, and of course during the pandemic a lot of people couldn't travel. Then we would have, had a problem in terms of our business model. But we reinvented ourselves. We said, okay, let's do video tours with the agents or with one of our consultants. We have to continually adapt to the situation that evolves.
From your point of view, what do you think drives this flexibility you have? Because we're talking about flexibility in the company and the process, but what you need to have something which drives you to be that flexible. What could that be?
Well, again, we are a small company, so it's much easier to be flexible. I'm always taking the example of a boat at sea, and you have the small sailing boat that can turn around quickly, and then you have this huge ship transporting containers, and maybe the container, the ship need I don't know 4 kilometers to be able to turn around. So when you are a big corporation, it's not as easy to change things. I mean, I work for a big corporation, and it's very difficult to do a change. and it's much smaller when it's a smaller company, and of course it's much easier when it's your own company. But I still think that you can do things. Typically, in December, we onboarded a new employee, and of course, the way you work when you are 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 is totally different in terms of processes and in terms of internal communication. I went to a presentation of the founder of Satispay, and it resonated to me when he said, it's easy when you are in a small room with 2 other people to know everything about the company, but then when you start to have 3 different offices, and then you have branches in other countries, then you have to rethink your communication, because you cannot just talk across the room and say, oh, okay, you have to do this and that, I have this idea. You have to rethink the way you're going to sell your product, advertise, and how are you going to get feedback from your employees that are in different places. And in our case, we at our level, we had to reinvent that as well. We who is going to do what. You have sometimes when somebody's getting on board, and so maybe it's less work for somebody else, but you have to define the workflow of the business. And again, it's because you cannot stay still. You have to, if you want to keep your level of quality, you have to reinvent yourself all the time.
Is this reinventing yourself capability you were talking about something which came when you started to be an entrepreneur, or is that something which were always in you? And if so, maybe give me an example about it.
So maybe it was in me, but I didn't know it. I worked most of my life in big corporations, and I had to follow internal processes, and of course, taking the example of my last job, I was country manager in Luxembourg. So of course, Luxembourg, if you look at other branches globally, was very small. So it's a bit more difficult to have people listen to your voice, whether it's in marketing projects or development projects. But yeah, I think the capacity to reinvent myself also came because I started an entrepreneur. I remember somebody telling me, if you don't have your back to the wall as an entrepreneur when you start, then you don't make the necessary steps and efforts to reach your goals. Also, I had a discussion with a young entrepreneur a while back, and starting a new company, but still having a job in a corporation. And my question was, at what point will you decide that it's the time to jump and to go full time in your job? I didn't expect an answer. It's not an easy question, but
No,
of course, you have the stability of a day-to-day job with salary coming every day. But are you putting 120% of your efforts in your new project? I don't think so. It might be. Don't take it wrong. It might be a good idea to start when you start a project to test it. Maybe you don't have the backups of business angels or banks to finance your project, so you can start slowly, as a side job and test the market and see if it works. But at one point, and it's I'm taking my example. Lost my job, set up my company. Well, I needed to pay my mortgage. I needed to pay the university of my kids. So I had no choice, it had to work. It had to work. In my mind, it couldn't fail because, I had some responsibilities and I had my back to the wall.
There's my answer. I think about the flexibility. It's like flexibility, as you described it before, also is driven by necessity.
By necessity, and also again, being smaller means that you can try things. I don't mean that bigger corporations don't try, but it's more difficult to, and it's why you have all those big corporations that set up those startups within startup departments within the big corporation to be more agile. In my case, you test something, it doesn't work, I forget about it. I try something else. You want to use an IT program. Somebody's telling me it's great. Then I test it. It's not for me. I stop it and I choose something else.
Yeah. So let us shift gears and go a little bit back, and something which, when I prepared for our conversation, which really struck me, uh, was in another interview you said that at one moment in time you took on a job and you had no clue about moving and about this industry, but you had to do it, and you worked your ass off for months, and you for every day, and you were proposed this managerial position, like almost right at the start. My question is, what did drive you to do more than the others? Because you definitely did more than others. Otherwise, they would have taken somebody else to propose them the managerial position.
Well, two things. The owners of the company I started to work with were clever guys. They were hiring young people, with not a lot of experience that they wouldn't pay too much, but that had, a lot of energy and everything to prove as they were starting in a business. And on my side, what pushed me, I don't know, maybe my education, and the fact that the need to prove to others that I could do it. Maybe it was the wrong thing because like we said at the beginning, I should have done it for myself, not for others. But
Yeah.
for a long time, I needed to prove to others, that I was capable, that I could do it, that I could, and sometimes it was very frustrating because I didn't have, any recognition, and then it pushed me to do much more and to push myself, physically and mentally, far beyond where I should have gone.
And yet again, to be in the duality of things, that is who made you the one who today is able to be flexible and do what he does. So I have a similar stories, like working always in so many different jobs and always doing more than others, and that's why I am where I am today. But
I think maybe one thing where which has been kind of my path is that I tried as much as possible to grab opportunities. When my boss, I was 6 months in a job as a sales guy and said, "Do you want to, run a branch in Lyon?" And I said, "Well, I don't have any experience, managerial experience." And
yeah,
the guy said, "I don't. It's not the question. Do you want a job?" And when I moved to Luxembourg, they asked, "Do you know Luxembourg? Do you want to take the job?" And I said, "Well, let's have a look at at Luxembourg." And then I said, "Okay, let's jump." And maybe the last one wasn't oh well. I could have gone back to a standard employee's job and I was in a way pushed, but in a way, it was my decision to say, okay, why not be an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Maybe talking about that too, it would be interesting to understand, like, and we talked about it, but maybe you explain it in a few words. Like from the moment you had to leave your job being the country manager to become an entrepreneur, what was this phase for you? How was that looking like? What did you do? What did you feel? What did you say? What?
To be honest, two sensations. The ceiling coming on my head, and at the same time, some relief. Why some relief? It's because I was not so happy in my previous job for the 3-4 previous years, and I didn't really like what I was doing. I had a great team, and I'm still in contact with them, but I didn't have any purpose in the job, and I didn't believe in the direction the company was going, and of course a shock, because even if maybe that things like that can happen, to learn during a business meeting within your company that you and two of your colleagues are fired, is not easy to accept. You, again, when you're coming back to being humble, you say, why are they doing it? So even if the company and the people say it's not personal, you take it personally. What did I do wrong? What did I
Yeah.
do wrong? I worked my ass off for you. Sorry for the language. And I'm just disposable. And it was a difficult phase, because I had, I think, to deconstruct myself and to reconstruct myself. And this, I could not have done it alone. I was helped by a transition coach. And for the people listening, I would really suggest, if you are a bit lost and you don't know where you are going, ask somebody from the outside. Ask somebody like Marco, to help you to be aligned. How can I be aligned with myself, and can I have a purpose in life? And it took me some time. It took me nearly 6 months to arrive at the conclusion that, if I couldn't find a job, then why shouldn't I create my own job? Which I did. But it was a tough, exciting, stressful, tiring path to arrive where I arrived. Because you have to get rid of all your beliefs. You have to open yourself. You have to break the armor that you've built around yourself, and you have to accept to open yourself. And I've heard so many stories of people starting with transition coach, but after a while they just quit because it hurts too much. Because it's like having a mirror in front of you and looking at yourself, and you don't like what you see. And sometimes when you don't like what you see, it's better to quit, and stay in your comfort zone, and instead of trying, to accept that that's not the nice guy you want to see in the mirror, and you want to change that.
I love it, and actually, what you're describing is actually creating strength through vulnerability, and it is beautiful to hear that from somebody who was general manager in a corporation, and through that path, that's where the strength lies. I think that's very
I,
beautiful.
I think
Thank you
that
for sharing.
for people, I think for people our generation, especially for men and mostly for men, we've been raised as, you need to be tough. You don't need to show your emotions. You cannot cry. Um, and of course, you replicate that in your personal life and in your professional life. And of course, I'm going to share something very personal. But during my transition coaching, I remember once I just cried like a baby. Something was, breaking up inside myself, and I just cried. It was a relief. It was a relief
Mhm.
because, like, all the bad emotion, all the stress was going out.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's important also to understand that everyone is vulnerable. Even the toughest guy, they are vulnerable at certain point. It might be because they have their small daughter next to them. Vulnerability is part of the human nature. And I think that um, companies should be aware of that. It's coming to women business. A lot of companies don't use the strengths of the woman, the fact
Mhm.
that they see things differently. Some corporation, they just engage women, and hire women and want them to be like men. Well, no, they are not. They are different, and you should use their strengths, and they have a lot of strengths in a different way. They are much better than men in some cases, in a lot of cases. Sorry.
Well, I think that opens up a totally different conversation, which I love to
Sorry.
have. No, 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 I love it. I love it. We will just not go there because otherwise we will run. Oh, maybe we do 2 hours then. I don't know how your timing is, but yes, I agree fully. I think um, rather to see the difference, we have to see what makes us whole, and if we see that as such, it's way more easy to handle also diversity challenges. But as said, DNI is it's a huge wormhole. Not wanting so much going there, but not today, because it's about you, Stefan, and it's about how you are able to do what you do today. And thank you for sharing your story from this vulnerable story and personal story. So if I would like to know, what was the one thing which or one or two things which you learned about yourself during this period, from being being made redundant to creating your own company?
um, well, I remember that my wife was, when I was in my previous job, was already telling me, "You're not happy. You need to do something else." And my only one answer is that, it's the only thing I can do. It's the only thing I know. And you know, I was running a branch of a big international group in Luxembourg, and I could have run, a company producing cans or whatever, or an IT company, maybe, I don't know, because managerial role is not completely different from one sector to the other. But there was a blockage in my mind, and of course, to go through this, introspection helped me to understand that, well, I could run a business. I could be, and honestly, I always said that I would never be an entrepreneur because it was not for me. I was, um, it was too scary. It was. I didn't have, the enough knowledge. I didn't have enough skills to be an entrepreneur. And this whole journey, until I decided to set up the company with my wife, was helped me to open my eyes on my capabilities, and how I would be, able to do something I loved.
it's beautiful how beliefs can change in our head when our world crumbles. Huh? Before the belief, and I just, and please tell me when I'm wrong, but before how I heard you now is before you really had this impression, I will never be an entrepreneur anyhow. I'm not this and da 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 da. All that story because you were the general manager and that was the comfort zone. Even so, you were not happy there. What I
It's
understood
the
you said.
comfort zone, and just uh, I stayed in my job for all the right reason, but at the same time for all the wrong reasons. So the right reason, yeah, job safety. I can pay my mortgage. I can pay, go on holiday. Pay the studies of my kids. Blah blah blah. But also I was staying for the wrong reasons because I wasn't fulfilled in my job, and I couldn't do what I wanted. But the difficulty is, where the balance is going to fall, on one side or the other. And sometimes it falls on the comfort zone. It's something I know I don't want to jump out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And what is really fascinating is that you are able to talk so openly about it because and that makes you, from my perspective, a role model because
But
not
that's
a lot.
new. That's new, Marco. That's very new.
That's very good. It's so powerful because so many people go through hardship, go through difficult times, and they are not able. They don't find somebody talking about. So I hope you will have 100 people asking you to do this kind of conversations because so that as much as possible people hear you talking because it's this model you give that even if I'm 50 years old, well, I change my belief, I change everything. I change my belief from I cannot be an entrepreneur to, well, I want to be an entrepreneur with my wife, and becoming it. It's actually an extremely powerful thing happening here. And what happened? That's like coming to my entrepreneurial way. It's like what happened is like you had this crack, this moment in your life which crumbled the whole world, which we see in our lives most of the times. It's very negative. It's negative at the first sight. But
It's
if I would
it's
ask
like
you
being
now,
like
and I
being
ask you,
reborn. It's like
yeah,
being reborn in a way.
beautiful.
It's
Yes, absolutely.
but it's also small steps. A lot of people think that I have to change everything in my life in 1 week. It's impossible. You have to go step by step. You cannot
Yeah,
change everything, and the small steps you are doing will help you to move forward. And you will meet people that will encourage you, and you will people that will inspire you, and that you will have people that will push you. I'm working with somebody, and I remember, for me, you heard the story, but I'm really, what opened my eyes about I don't have anything to prove to anybody,
yeah,
is when COVID hit. We are in the mobility business. Borders are closing. It's like a disaster. How are we going to survive to that? Because people cannot come to move and travel to Luxembourg. And we have the chance to have, what I call him, my co-pilot, but he's a business coach, and who said, that's an opportunity as well. Most people will dig their head in the sand, wait for the storm to pass. You have to be visible. Do post on social medias, go on interviews, do videos. And then I heard the word videos, and I was just freaking out. I said, no way, I cannot do videos. And he said, you have to do a video. And I said, I cannot. And the next week he said, oh, where's the video? And I said, well, I didn't do any video. I'm not able to do any video. I just did a video with my daughter, and he said, well, that's great, a dancing video. And I was like, no, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. I cannot, I was dancing in a tutu with my daughter. That's impossible. And said, you have to do it. So, I prepared a video, small text on LinkedIn, and waited maybe 10 minutes before pressing the button publish. And I was like, I'm just going to die. People are going to come on me. It's going to be, the end of my life. And the reality is that two things. Reaction were really positive because it was 3 or 4 weeks after the lockdown, so people wanted to have good news and have fun. Sharing personal things, until now, I always thought that LinkedIn is only for pure business, but then you also need to show, it's not like a painting on the wall. It needs to be, lively also. People need to understand that it's not, all white and black and white, and that sometimes to be an entrepreneur is difficult. Sometimes it's fun, and also what helped me is that having this positive outcome with this video, where I'm still, when I see it, I was like, oh, how did I do that? But then I realized that, well, at this point, I don't have anything to prove to anybody. People can like me with what I publish, or people can dislike me. I can have positive comments and bad comments. Well, at least I'm now aligned with where I'm going, with what I believe. Of course, I can be wrong, and I accept to be wrong. But at the same way, I can. It's some weight that were taken out of my shoulder to be able to be freely myself and not to have to prove anything to anybody.
This is a beautiful learning, actually, and what I asked about learnings, I think, and let me analyze that maybe for a second. But before the shift in your life, everything was going towards helping towards others, and the learning was afterwards really to be able to link everything to your own alignment, which you did. So you really, it was pleasing, and then it was, I know my way, I know what I have to do, and if something uncomfortable shows up, well, then I have to do that. There was a reason to do it.
And I think, especially due to the fact that we are a small company, and we know we've done mistakes in our recruitments. Even if I have done a number of recruitments in my life, the first one I did for the company was not, perfect. The reality is that when you define your company culture, and I don't really like this word because it's what we were saying before. Company culture can be a sign on the wall, but when you define how you want to align yourself to the business and align the business to the way you serve your customers, the people you are bringing in should be aligned as well. They shouldn't be only hired because of their knowledge about their experience, because in most businesses you can learn. Of course, if you are in IT or engineering, it would be more difficult, but in most of the jobs you can learn. You have programs to learn new things, but what is important is that the person getting in is aligned to the culture, aligned with the culture of the company.
And it only can happen if the person who drives the company is aligned.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now, as you say, it's easier in a smaller company, but even big companies are able to do that. Just look companies like Patagonia
Yeah.
or other ones who really drive an extremely positive culture and actually who walked away from the customer as king to my coworkers are king, and understood that if they do that, then the customer will be always served well.
Yeah.
and
Exactly. Yeah.
and that way of approach is what you're explaining. It's the alignment, and how can we bring this alignment into our company. So for me, and that's what I'm working on right now very much, is starting with the personal alignment and then bringing it into the company, and rather than trying to do something artificial in companies, which, if we are not asking ourselves the questions, if we don't do this introspection as you did it, then we will not able to. It will always be inauthentic what we create, because it's always a sign on the wall about culture. It's not about me and about what I am able to bring to that company. So that goes from everybody in the company has to ask themselves that question.
And you have on a regular basis to step back and to reflect on where your company is going, how your employees are, following the company culture, the company alignment, and how you can improve, because we are not in a still world, and the reality of today is not going to be the reality next month and in 2 years' time. Things change, and we need to adapt to the way the company is working, the way the information is flowing within the company, to be sure that we don't hit the wall.
Yeah. So maybe because we're already closing to an hour, well, great conversation. Maybe a last question, and we touched on it, but I would love to, like, as a summary, ask you the question. So for you, what are your characteristics, your inner strengths, which support your personal fulfillment? So we started with fulfillment, and let's end with fulfillment.
I'm a hard worker, but it can be very negative as well. So you and I'm on the learning curve as well. I've been doing things in the company where I said, oh, I can do it myself, and then the job is piling up. Yeah, I can do it. But at one point, you have to accept that it's better to delegate. The job is going to be done, in a better way.
Yeah.
So hardworking is not as positive as people can think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that maybe is a bit new is the fact that I'm again using your nice word of being aligned. Now that I'm aligned with myself, I'm much more positive. And of course, you can be hit, in your personal life, in your business. Don't take it personally when you are, hit by, a customer, unhappy customer, or problems. That's part of life. So you have to accept and try find a way out. Again, more easy to say than to implement it. And I think also what is important and is to accept to be helped from the outside.
Yeah.
And what I realized now, I was working for a big corporation, had a lot of nice colleagues around the globe, but sometimes I was feeling very, very lonely in my office in Luxembourg, and it would have
Yeah.
been for my day-to-day work, and it would have been great to have, a mentor or business coach, to talk to, every week, every 2 weeks, just to, somebody pulling me out of the day-to-day job, and having, reflecting on how are you doing, you Stéphane, personally, your health, your
Yeah.
feelings, how the business is doing, how do you react to, stress and
Yeah.
frustration, um, and doing it alone, I would say, is nearly impossible. Yes, you can do it. You can do it. What happened most of the time, even if some people don't admit it, it's burnout. That's the
Yeah.
reality, and it's what
Because
happened to me.
yeah, and because you're always in the reaction cycle and you will not
Yeah,
break out of it, and you think you have purpose, but you adopted the purpose of somebody else because you didn't align. It's
yeah,
it's always happening, and we see that all over the world and all the time with very lot of high end entrepreneurs, or also that at the end that's not fulfillment. Even so, they portray it like that. Thank you very much. We are over the hour, so I think we could go on for another hour easily, especially if we go back to DNI. But
that
so
that will
thank
that will be that will be for next discussion in a few
you.
months. It would.
Absolutely.
It has been a real pleasure, Marco, to discuss with you and to share my thoughts,
Thank you very much.
and I hope that the people listening also enjoy the discussion.
Yes. So thank you everybody for being here. ZentraCasts will be every last Thursday in the month as of now. And already, as I am, already an exception. Next month, there will be a French edition, mid of February, because there is a friend of mine who wrote a great book, Peggy Tarion, and we will have an interview with her, a conversation around the book and how she came up with such an amazing way of talking about her personal development and how she sees that. That's that again, Stefan. Thank you for your
Thanks a lot,
time. It
Marco.
was
It
a
was a pleasure.
great thing, and talk to you very soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.